What's going on, y'all? It's NBA skills coach Drew Hanlen back for a brand new episode of our Micro Skills Michael Jordan film breakdown series. Today, in episode 2, we're going to specifically dive into the details of Michael Jordan's fadeaway. Now, I know we touched on it a little bit in episode 1. In episode 1, we talked about all of his best mid-range and separation moves, and one of those moves was the fadeaway, but I thought it needed its own episode because he had such a variety of different fadeaways. He had off-the-catch fadeaways, he had low-post fadeaways, he had half-spin fadeaways, he had mid-post fadeaways, he had full-spin fadeaways, he had drifting fadeaways. You guys get the point. There's so many different fadeaways that he used, so I said, you know what? I need to give them even more details, even more nuances, even more micro skills so they can truly understand what made Michael's fadeaway so special. The first type of fadeaway was off the catch fadeaway. So right here you can see he gets his foot all the way around and gets squared. That picture perfect form is what made him so unstoppable because he was always on balance. If you break it down a little bit more, you can see his foot gets around. So it gets all the way around right there. Then he's able to rise up over his defender and then knock it down. But he always got his hips squared and he always got the ball up. He was able to get his hips under the ball and his elbows under the ball and get the ball to a clean shot pocket so he can knock it down. You can see right here when the defender swipes, he keeps the ball protected outside so the ball is out away from his body, but more importantly, away from the defender. So when he swipes right there, he doesn't get a piece of it. It gets cleanly to his shot pocket. He squares in the air, and then look right there. He's perfectly squared right before he releases it directly at the rim. So again, so many of these nuances we talked about in the first kind of episode, but I really wanted you to see a couple other things that made him special. The next one right here was something that, a lot of players don't think about when they're working on it, but getting this foot around. So you can see right here, a lot of players would get their feet parallel and stop right there. But what does MJ do? He gets that foot around so he can start to turn on the ground before he rises up in the air. Now he can get his hips opened up, he gets squared, gets that elbow aimed right at the rim, and then knocks it down. You'll see sometimes he uses a leg kick. More times than not, the times that he's going to use a leg kick is when he doesn't get his foot past. So right now he plants his left foot. It's open so he can get around, but his right foot doesn't get past his left foot. It gets even. When he does this, that's a lot of times when he's going to have to recline back and use that right leg to kind of maintain that balance that he wants. So right here, you notice he uses that right leg kick. All that is basically making sure that his hips are aligned, his shoulders are in line, his elbow is squared right at the rim so that he can get that perfect soft touch. Right here, you can see another thing that he did really, really well, and that was get up over defenders. So right here, he uses a couple little shot fakes, but then he rises up over his defender before his defender could leave the ground, and now there's no chance that you're going to be able to kind of jump with him, and he gets over you. So again, right here, you can see he elevates over his defender. Penny Hardaway, who's the primary defender right now, is stuck on the floor. That way, he can just knock down the J. He was also great at pushing off of his feet. So you notice that when he jumps up, he doesn't just go straight up and kind of lean back. He really pushes off of his feet and gets out. So you can see he separates with the jump. A lot of players, when they do their fadeaways, they just lean back. What that does is it really just causes bad arc. What MJ does is he uses his legs, gets his elbow around, and then knocks down the shot. So again, you can see they were running 2, 3, sometimes 4 defenders at him, but he was so good at making the shots because he was able to drift in so many different directions. Here you can see him open up his feet. So watch just his left foot right here. You can see him turn that foot before he gets around. So look at this turn right there. That allows him to get his hips open. Now he can get on balance. You notice his defender is still stuck on the ground. He's already got the ball over his head, rising up and able to knock down the J. Again, right here, a lot of times he was going over his left shoulder. He was a primary kind of off-the-catch left shoulder shooter because he liked to play in the mid-post and the low post off of his left pivot foot. Now, occasionally, he did go over his right shoulder, which you can see here, and he was also great at moving without the ball. One of the biggest, kind of the coolest stats that I've ever heard about Michael Jordan was his last year with the Chicago Bulls. He scored, almost 30 points a game. It was 29 and some change. And he only had the ball in his hands. His time of possession was 3 minutes and 47 seconds. Think about that. Scoring almost 30 points a game and only having the ball in your hands for 3 minutes and 47 seconds. What that means is he was great moving without the basketball, and he was really efficient and effective when he got it. Now here you're going to go over kind of the spins over his right shoulder. He was really good off the dribble going over his right shoulder. As we talked about in episode 1, you can see he could use right or left leg kicks. So right here, he uses a left leg kick so he could get perfectly squared and aligned to the basket and then knocks down his J. You can see highly contested or not contested. It didn't really matter because he was able to knock down these shots like there was no defender there at all times. He was also really good right here. I want you to see this. When he spun, he was always on his toes or on his heel, so he could really open up. Most of the time, players have their foot flat. If you have your foot flat, you're not able to turn on it as efficiently. Right here, you can see he's on his heel. He goes heel-toe. Then he gets that other foot down. That other foot needs to be planted because if it's not planted, you're not going to have balance, you're not going to have power. Imagine you trying to jump with one foot flat and one foot not even on the ground really. You know, say it was sliding, you wouldn't be able to explode up in the air. He was so good at getting the heel-toe roll so that he could really elevate, and you can notice that he's naturally drifting to his left to separate even further away from his defender. This one was pretty cool because, you know, he was great at getting his head around. So watch his head right here. So anytime, you know, he was posting up, he keeps his chin attached to his shoulder, so he's reading over his inside shoulder. Now he sees the help side defender. You can see the help side defender sneaking in the bottom of the screen right here on the right-hand side. Help side defender is thinking that they're going to help side on the baseline side. They're thinking MJ's going a full spin. So what does he do? Instead of going a full spin, he stops it short and does basically like what you guys know is like the Dirk Nowitzki 1 foot fadeaway. But again, look at this. Gets that knee up. Again, balances everything for him and then knocks down the J. So just super smart, able to really get his head around. You can see right there already looking at the rim, gets his head around, chin attached to his shoulder, keeps the ball away from the defender. You notice that he goes straight from outside hip straight to shot pocket. Again, always on balance, always knocking down the J. So many things made him special besides just his, elite athleticism. It wasn't that he was just jumping over people. I mean, if you look at his foot right here, so watch where it starts. Let's watch his right foot. So his right foot right now is, not doing anything special. But when he drops, you notice that he splits it, and then look at that pivot. That little pivot is what makes him so great at shooting fadeaways. That little pivot right there allows him to get past, kind of his hips. Then he gets open, so now when he squares, he's not off balance. So you notice that he spreads his legs wide right now to get that perfect balance. That's another technique that you can use anytime that there's contact. A lot of times when players get fouled, they naturally want to overspin. MJ was so great at kind of fanning his legs so that he could get on balance. Right here, he didn't need that. He was able just to recline back and knock it down. Same thing right there. But you can see highly contested jump shots didn't mean anything, and he was able to do it over and over again because he was on perfect balance at all times. Here you can see he uses a bump to create a little separation, and then again separates away from his defender. Now he also had a spin over his left shoulder. Now the left shoulder is a little bit harder, especially off the bounce, because you have to get all the way around. So I want you to watch how kind of aggressive he is with his left pivot foot. So right now his left pivot foot is not in a good situation, but what does he do? He opens it. And that open right there is the biggest key. Then that right foot gets even or by him. And then what does he do? He jumps up, again, fans his legs so that he can get perfectly squared, gets that elbow aligned, and then knocks it down. Right here, does a good job again, all the way around. Notice eyes are already downhill so he can read the defender, shoots it up over 2. Again, big spin. You guys can see this right here. Look at this spin right now. Big spin with that pocket dribble, gets around, gets his eyes on the rim, gets his hips and elbow on the rim, and is able to knock it down. Right here, he also creates space with his body. So look right this time, look at his elbow, hits Penny hard right there, pushes him off, creates some separation with the little nudge, and then again, little recline, buckets. So good. And you can see right here the fake spin. I call this an up, down, back down. It's a great way if defenders are leaning on you, up, down, back down, aggressively hop up and down. Defender thinks, he's going for the spin, falls already. Now the second time he actually goes for the spin, again, what does he do? Look at his elbow. He gets that elbow past his defender. Anytime a defender is leaning on you or walling up, that's what you want to do, and then reclines away and knocks it down. Now look at how close these contests are, but that's why it's so important, and that's why it was so unguardable, because if he didn't, separate away with the jump, it would have been really highly contested, or it would have altered his arc. He never wanted to do that, so he was able to just fade at different angles and ultimately hang in the air until he could free himself up for the wide open J. Now we got half spin. Left shoulder was his kind of, go-to on the half spins. Really good, at really getting his foot around. Once he got that wide base, elevated up, and then knocked it down. You notice that high ball pickup too. He always gets the ball way up, so right there you can see the reach-in foul, but it didn't affect him because the ball was already up over his head. Then he just recontrols the ball and then knocks down the fade. Right here, same exact thing. Again, you can see, look how the ball is protected. It's way outside on his outside hip. That way the defender doesn't have that last second swipe ability, and then he just reclines back and knocks it down. You can see right here his eyes. I love this clip because you can see his eyes. As soon as he gets up over it, eyes on the rim, then he can glance and knock it down. You'll also notice that if you're really paying close attention, anytime that he's closer to the basket, he actually keeps his elbow out in front a little more so he has a little bit more touch, and he doesn't shoot a full shot. Anytime he's going away from the basket, he really gets that pocket back so that he has more power using his elbow. Right here, good balance. You can see right now he's in a bad position. His shoulders are back. You always want to tighten your core when you're shooting fadeaways, but what MJ does is, because he's like that, he hangs in the air, and now he gets kind of his shoulders forward. Now he's in a good position. So you see, if he tried to shoot it from right here, he's leaning back, he's arched back, he has no power. It's going to be a flat shot. But because he kind of crunches his shoulders down, then what it allows him to do is get in a good position where his elbows are in front of his body, and then he can knock it down. That's where his athleticism came into play, was he was able just to hang in the air and kind of correct himself. I call it air square, but he was one of the best in the business at it. Half spin over his right shoulder. Again, he didn't have as many right shoulder fadeaways. He more so went the half spin over the left shoulder. But again, same exact thing. Look where the ball is. Defender swipes again, but he keeps that ball protected. It's outside. He ends up getting an and one right there. So good at just showing his elbow. So most players show the ball. He showed his elbow so he could try to get that hand swipe so he'd get the and one and then would fix himself in the air. Here, a little half spin off the dribble. Same thing. You can see, look at that elbow. He brought that elbow out. It's a good, kind of foul technique. It's something I train all my guys to do, especially when you're going over your shooting shoulder. So as a right-hand shooter, most people like to expose the ball because they want to get it back over to their right-hand side. What good players that are, really talented can do is keep their elbows wide on the pickup so that, the offensive player that's swiping in hits the elbow, and then you get the ball to the pocket after it's up over your head. Really, really elite thing. It was one of those things that I actually learned from him. Dribble right fadeaways. And again, we looked at some of these in episode 1, but you can see just so talented at just getting to spots, reclining back, elevating over players. Right here, you can see how physical he is too. He was always kind of playing the hand swipe game or trying to get an arm bar to him, and then reclined back, just elevated, and then knocked it down. Just so talented, and he had such a variety of fadeaways. And as you saw in episode 1, he also had the ability to shot fake, so it just kept defenders kind of in a position where they really couldn't stop him. Again, right there, good hand swipe. He couldn't do anything. You can see right here how he locks. So right there, he gets a little lock, but he gets his elbow out. That way the defender gets off of him, draws a little contact, and then shoots up over 2 defenders. So again, he's so good. Look at this. Right there, elbow into the body. What does he do? He gets the defender off of him. Then right here, he gives him a little nudge. You can see the defender back up. Then he gets on balance. Again, even when he's physical, he was able to get on balance and then knock down the J. The move does not matter if you don't make it. Right here, just again, getting to a spot, reclining. Right here, you can see, look at this. So highly contested, but he just hangs in the air long enough. Instead of shooting it flat right there, anytime that you're leaning back, you want to shoot a little bit higher with your elbow because you want to basically keep your elbow angle the same. So right now, if my elbow angle is 90 degrees, if I lean back, you'll notice that my elbow is actually pointed more to the ceiling. So look at that right there. He gets that elbow up over the defender and is able to put a soft touch to knock it down. Again, just shooting over 2-3 defenders, it did not matter. That's what happens when you practice a shot over and over again. You just trust it so much that it really doesn't matter what the defense does. It all comes down to, did you make or miss the shot? Here you can see him reclining back with the left. One of the other cool things that he did to the left was he drifted a lot. So instead of just going backwards and reclining, there were a lot of times where he continued to pull left. So you can see right here, just continued to kind of pull left. So hard to guard. I mean, right there, you think that he's just going to shoot a normal jump shot, and look at him just falling to the left, drifting away, and still maintaining perfect balance. Right here, I mean, look where he's at when he starts, fades away, hits a shot as the clock's running down. I mean, just so talented. Right here, it's not as much of a fadeaway, but just to show you, I mean, just hung in the air, was able to, manipulate the ball around, and then ultimately finish, whether it was a layup, a jump shot, or a fadeaway. It didn't really matter. He was just always trying to make sure that he could get off a clean shot and stay on balance. Then we have the hop fadeaway. Hop fadeaway was, something that he just basically used a lot of times anytime he was a little bit off balance. So instead of going into a 1-2 right here, so look, he's trying to fight his defender with that arm bar, he doesn't get a good plant. So you notice right there, he doesn't get a good plant where he gets that heel toe. It kind of stops short. So instead of trying to, take a bad step and then shoot an off balance shot, he just takes a little hop. Now he gets on balance, and now he's able to knock down the J. Same thing here. He takes this step. You notice that was probably a little bit too long of a lunge where he wasn't in a good stance to kind of take that 1-2. So he just hops, gets on balance, and knocks it down. On the hop, you want to try to get low with your hips. So you can see he's trying to get the ball up, hips down. Ball up, hips down. That way you're really on balance. You can see hopping to spots. And again, every single time he was hopping, he was just loading up, really getting his elbows under the ball, and then able to recline back and knock down the J. Just so talented, so many kind of different footworks. You can see him just reading the defense and always just trying to get to spots. Once he got to an open spot, he was able to jump up over him, elevate, and then ultimately convert by knocking down the jump shot. Again, right here, you can see off balance, still get squared up. It takes so much core strength. A lot of people don't realize that this is real core strength. Basketball players that think that six-pack is core strength, this is what it's all about. It's about being able to control your breathing. It's about being able to stay in good posture, stay on good balance. That's what real core strength is all about. Reclining fadeaways, these are just kind of just lean backs. So you can see just two of them right here. He also had some times where he just jumped up over that right shoulder. I told you, he really liked that left pivot foot. So a lot of times he did that. And then we're going to end on the one-legged hanger. But it's just a really good kind of, chance to show you guys how talented he was off of one. Instead of just shooting up a prayer, a lot of players would have just thrown up a floater. He squares in the air and still shoots that fadeaway. That's big time hang time, and you guys can see this one more time. Jumps up, elevates, get perfectly squared. Again, look at that. That looks like a jump shot, even though it was off 1 foot, and then knocks it down. So as you guys can see, truly the best player ever at shooting fadeaways. He's a guy that I've learned so much from just watching his film, breaking it down. I've been able to help a ton of my clients master their fadeaways from just watching his footage. And I think that it's so important that you understand all those little details. I know that it's easy to look at him and say, yeah, he just elevated over people. But the truth is, the reason he was able to do that is he was always on balance. He had such good core strength. He was able to recline at different ways. He was always getting his vision downhill so he could see where he needed to recline. And he was just one of those guys that mastered the shot. So, 1 or 2 or 3 hands didn't affect him.